Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast. Today's a really interesting hybrid episode because it's technically an incident debrief, but because of the experience and passion and interest that comes from my guest today, we also go into so many other areas. We actually dip into a few other incidents and use them as touchstones, as reference points for specific tactical adjustments and procedural changes that have come into the service as a result of many other poignant incidents that have shaped the way we operate as firefighters on the ground. So my guest today is Chris Westfield. Chris is a good friend of mine and started his career with London Fire Brigade back in 2003, whereby in the same year he was involved in a near-death experience in his operational duties. This led Chris down a path of fire behaviour and firefighting tactics. Chris became an instructor, creating courses and delivering for London and the Fire Service College as part-time instructor. Chris continued until 2019, working for the college as an instructor while going back operational for a number of years until he moved on to Northamptonshire, going back to his roots, creating and delivering firefighting tactics and being on a regional BA team. Chris is still serving as a watch manager in the UK Fire and Rescue Service now, and in his current service he works in fire protection, as well as still delivering training to brand new firefighters every day. And what I love about the way Chris speaks about training and his delivery is that he has the really, really rare authenticity about understanding the why behind why we do the things we do. So in today's episode, we're going to be speaking about a whole array of things. It might look like a bit of a long one, but this may very well be my favorite ever episode. I don't know. It was just such a fun, interesting, deep, challenging, and at times, for the both of us, quite an emotional conversation. So a few things to look out for in today's episode. We're going to speak about a few incidents. We're going to speak about Smithfield Market. We're going to speak about Gillinder Street, Bethnal Green. We're going to talk about ownership and recruitment and giving people a sense of pride and belonging. Chris has a great analogy that he gives about creating a box for brand new recruits. Listen in for that one. It's a great idea. I'm certainly going to steal it myself. We go into lots of examples around operational tactics. We talk about what is your priority versus tactics. We talk about dynamic risk assessments inside the fire compartments. We talk about water application. We talk about anti-ventilation, communication checks and the essentialness of them. Chris's own personal story from his near-death experience has lots of these moments within it that will demonstrate the cost of forgetting some of these fundamentals. We talk about the Bergen principle and how we wear our BA sets and how that kind of came about, and Chris's, again, experience leading to some of these changes. We speak about the real-life cost of getting your gloves wet. And then finally, we talk about DSUs and entrap procedures and how that saved Chris's life. So there is so much to take away from today's episode. Honestly, I think you're going to love it. Chris very kindly made the journey to come and record this at my home. So there's no video for this one. So on our YouTube page, you won't see any video clips from this one. But it does make for a richer, more authentic back and forth between myself and Chris. So there's a lot of fun in this one. There's a lot of colourful language from the both of us. And again, take that in the way that it's intended. There's a lot of passion in this one. There's a lot of reflection. There's a lot of, could I have done something different? What would have happened if things weren't the way they were? And Chris makes some very good points around the way we speak about debriefs and the fact that it's not inherently for us to judge what we'd have done, because of course, looking back over time, we all become experts. We become those Monday experts talking about the game from the weekend and how we'd have done it so much better. It's not for us to judge, because if we'd have been in that person's shoes with the same training, the same level of experience, most likely we'd have made the very same decisions. And absolute certainty is only available to us in hindsight. So I hope you enjoy this one. It certainly is going to linger long in my memory, and I would really love to have Chris back on. This is a 3-hour episode, but funnily enough, I felt like we could have spoke for another 2.5. So hopefully it's all useful. Take what applies to you and leave the rest. And just finally, a big thanks for Chris for coming on and being so honest, open, authentic, and honestly vulnerable in the way that he communicates with such playfulness and passion for the profession of firefighting. So without further ado, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you, Chris Westfield, and I'll see you on the other side.
Firstly, I thought I'm coming here just to talk about Telstar House. And
I
thought the subject was specifically Telstar House. And do you know what? I've gone through my head because I've never done talks and podcasts before, and I'm thinking, what am I going to talk? And then you're talking about this was really good because this is like a passionate thing for myself. So 2 points there. So you're sort of talking about risk averse. What I find interesting with BA is I think at the minute we're at a point where we're stagnating. I'm still seeing, we're still doing the same things from Smithfield Market. Okay, so Smithfield Market, 1958, I think it was. That's where all your BA procedures, your safe movement all came in. It was a basement that was cork lined, and they stored all the meats underneath there. So all the oils of the meat soaked into the cork, and they had a fire underneath it. I think you could still see the video of where Smithfield Market, the towers and that all collapsing.
I'm going to find a link to it, so I'll take notes during this because I'll get links.
And you know, why I know Smithfield Market, and you've got Gillinder Street, and you've got Bethnal Green. And these are case studies, and case studies are really, really important, and we don't use them in training as much as we should do, because it hits home and it encompasses what we're doing and why we're doing it. We're in services now where people don't necessarily know the why, and also we're creating people that won't necessarily ask the why sometimes. Great example is entrapment procedure. The amount of times I've heard people say, we'll deliver entrapment procedure, but if it was me, I wouldn't do this. I would, you know, I'll try and work where I would never get into that position. I would get out, I'll do this, I would do that.
Famous last words.
I've used entrapment procedure and it saved my life. And the amount of times that I've been there and people have said that they don't understand the purpose of it, and it doesn't, you know, I wouldn't ever use it.
But the old arduous conditions, heating, exposure, and then wear your cylinder oil down, go outside on your last 50 bar, get into a trap procedure, sit there, see how long you can make it last. They used to do that. Some places don't even do that anymore.
And they should do. Because
I think they saw it as a bee sting.
It's not
the
a bee
exhaustion
sting.
exposure was us making people march around a room, stepping over benches, carrying barrels.
They
don't like that bit anymore because they see that as a necessary beast.
So I have been in situations since then where I've not got close to that, but I understand myself a lot more and know my limit. So if you don't know your limit, or you've never experienced the limit, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is it's a rhetorical question. If an individual doesn't know what their limit is, how do they know when they get into it? And if they don't know how they get into it, then how are you giving them that exposure to understand where their point that they need to come out or they need to do to actually say enough is enough? You're not giving them a measurement. Initially, when people first join the service, it is very policy driven. So if you could imagine, if people are listening to this, if they can imagine two straight lines, right? So half a square, so a line up and then a line across to the right if they're facing on a piece of paper, right? And what you've got is that first line is policy and the top line is objective. Okay. So what you do to start off with, you've never been in BA before, you've never done fires, you'll follow that, you'll not come off that policy line, it'll be very straight. And then what you'll do is you'll come across that to meet your objective. Very strict, very structured. All right. Now, as we are exposed to jobs and incidences, we can create a curve. So we can come off that line of policy, we create a curve and we meet our objective quicker. But it's safe because we're incorporating policy, we're incorporating dynamic risk assessment, and we're incorporating experience.
Experiential knowledge.
So let's use all those three, and we know, and then we're curving it. So as an incident commander, I will turn up to an incident and I'll get to a house fire. You know, I've been to a load of these, I'm reading it, I know the people, and what I'll do is I'll cut corners to achieve the objective quickly and safely. Exposing highly calculated manner to save savable life. When I did the incident command course, it was really in depth. They did loads and loads of tabletops. They had trains, like model trains crashed. They had they used to get the housing from housing estates, and then get the houses, the models, and they'd create all these, and the tabletops and the intensity, and then go to the fire service college and have the live incidents, and all that, and there was a real big psychological bit as well. You know, talking about storming, norming, performing, all the management, the psychology of leadership. I think at that time, London, if they were able to do it as a business, they would have earned a lot of money, because the LMDT, the Leadership Management Development Team, the people that were in there were absolutely phenomenal. The firefighter development, so there was 55 BA instructors, 55 firefighter development instructors, then you'd got your FRU, then you'd got your leadership management team. The high turnover that London had at the time, because it was a large portion of people retiring, They had 16 people on each course, and it was absolutely rammed. I think it was a 16-week course, and then on top of that, they did 2 weeks at the Fire Service College, real fire training. So they broke it down into 2 areas. They did BA, 3 weeks of BA, no fires, and then they did 2 weeks of firefighting, incorporate BA, ladders, and firefighting. We do not appreciate on-call as much as we should do, even down to the training. So think about it, right? Whole time, we go training, we get our leave as soon as we start, we build up leave as soon as we start, okay? And then, so we're working, we get our leave, we do everything. On-call have to use their leave to be able to do the BA and the firefighter development side, right? So, and we don't appreciate that. And this is the first part. I used to get welfare involved a lot with them when I was the lead for the BA courses, and I would be very empathetic. I value them, but I would give them a lot of support, and I would encourage support, because they may be a carer, they may have jobs, all sorts. So they're working all the time, and then what happens is their time that they take off, they're now doing a course. So what day do they have in that 12 months? They have no leave in that 12 months. So there's a lot of stress. They're now doing this course, and if they fail the course, or they came off the course, what I tried to do was get it incorporated that welfare would automatically contact them, because if they failed a course, that's going to be a real hit on them going, I'm not good enough. 2, I haven't got any other leave available to do it again. And 3, I've just invested all that time. We tend to look at Blainer as the introduction of firefighter phenomenons and understanding flashover, backdraft and fire gas ignition, okay? But the other aspect we don't necessarily focus on is the effect on the community and the community pressures. So think about it, right? They've turned up, and this is what I used to say to on-call people. I turned up, I go to a station, I'm in charge, don't live in the area. I make decisions, achieve objectives, walk away, done. I have no link. There's a separation. On call, make a decision. You save a business, but you lose another business. That business then has a massive effect, and has an effect on those people.
Effect.
You may know that person that's lost that business. You may know the person that knows that person that loses that business. They may want to find a blame for that individual.
The
they blame
kid goes to school with your kid.
They blame you because you didn't put the fire out quick enough. They don't understand policies and procedures and safety and control measures, whereas the risk that they would put themselves at as human behaviour would be always greater when it's a personal responsibility. So they will always put themselves at a greater risk than you as the fire service. So then, you're slowing down, so it's your fault. If somebody's died, you may know them, you may be a part of them. You have a greater exposure or risk of a family member, you being as an RTC. I remember my old boss, when he retired, he worked for Highways Agency, and he went to an incident, and it was his son. I got them to create a box to hold the water. So I tasked the group. These were two particular things I'll do. So I tasked them to get the box and put an image that represents them on that box. So it wasn't a picture of them, it was something that represented them. It was a responsibility of them to make sure that that box is there on the drill ground and back, and it's always there, and it's got everyone's waters in it, and it was rotated to the team leader. So you obviously put team leader in, and you rotate it, and they'd be responsible for it. That was the first thing. That was the first thing I did. The second thing I did, because this is what I was able to do at that time for that bit, was what was a song that represented them. And then what I did was, when they were doing their it was A test, so which is a general check and stuff on their BA set, I would play their song, right? And that there's a reason for that. One of the reasons was ownership of the group. It's a family. They don't want to leave it, so they will work their hardest to stay there, to achieve, to do the best that they want to achieve. Everyone is equal in that group. Everyone is valued. There's not one person bigger than anybody else. My son died of hyperplastic left heart syndrome just after he was born, and that was a really difficult thing to cope with. At the time, as watch managers, we were like on a cluster leave. You were only allowed so many watch managers off within the area. When somebody's off sick, or that you got to do return to work, I'd look at the policy. There's particular things that you would have to ask that person. What I would do is remove that list and incorporate it into a conversation. I'd listen to the individual and I'd have that chat. One of the bits that was always there was you need to inform them that the service is important and that if you're off, the impact that has on others. I'm listening to these people and the things that they're going through. It's not important to them as a daughter's tried to commit suicide, or they're going through a divorce, or they've got financial issues. These type of things. As a manager, a lot of what you're doing is personnel management. You're listening, you're a counsellor to all the problems that these people are going through, and you're listening and supporting them the best that you can do within the service. And I needed a bit of recuperation, and they offered me a date, and the service, I wasn't able to get that leave. I contacted my HR and they said, I explained the situation about my son and needed that break. Firefight Charity had offered me time, and their reply was, okay, you do understand the importance of the fire service. And I went, okay, thank you very much. Put the phone down. I didn't even finish the conversation. I went, we create this robot environment, and then where there is no room to make a mistake. We got to remember, we're human beings, all right? And we will make mistakes. And what we've got to do is look at intentions, which is what I've said earlier. What was the intention of what that individual did? Was it to try and better the situation? And and they'll learn from it. If it is, promote that. Promote it, support it, encourage it. Don't knock it. Because then we're scared of our own shadow. We're scared of making mistakes. We're scared of being leaders and deciding. We're scared of putting our head above a parapet. And what will that knock-on effect be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time? We're going to be in a stagnating process whereby we won't be able to move forward. We can't make decisions because people are too bothered about, oh my gosh, it's going to affect my career. I'm going to lose my pension. And we're removing this safe bubble. And also, we're removing the opportunity to develop and support. And interesting, with Telstar House, I nearly died. At that point there, for me, I just wanted to go to sleep. That was it. I was so hot. I was hot. I was burning up. There was no light, there was no this, there was no, I just want to go sleep. So when I hear people, and I said this the other day about, I remember many moons ago when they first give the case study for Adam, me and Bill Force for Bethnal Green, the two firefighters that unfortunately passed away with the basement fire. And I do remember this individual saying, well, I'd have done this and I'd have done that. And I got quite agitated because you don't know what you would have done. Okay, because we've got the information and now we're reviewing it. What we've got to do is respect those individuals, because the mistakes that were made is where we will learn and improve. And that's what we've got to value. Yeah, with Gill Industry, and the other day, it was Blainer. They were talking about Blainer, which was in the 90s. I think it was 94, sort of 92, 96, something like that. Hearing an individual say, well, I would have done that. And I've got, oh, well, whatever. We're not here to criticise what they've done because they didn't know that information at that time, all right? And we would have probably done exactly the same what they've done. What we've got to do is just appreciate and value the loss that they've made for us to not have that same process. And he was first in attendance to the Paddington rail crash. The first thing that they did was they smashed the fences down. Mm-hmm. They didn't do anything other than create accessible. That's all they did, yeah. Right? And then what he was doing was, when they were there were the bodies that were all over the train track. And the little thing that they did was the rats came and they were coming onto the track and they were trying to eat the bodies. They were just trying to nip at them. And what they did to give the respect to those bodies, because they had to stay in situ, was they worked just to keep those rats away from them. And that's their little bit of respect that they gave those people. And that, to me, was it really hit me. It was a little conversation that he had, and I've never forgotten it. And it's just giving the dignity and the respect to whoever, whether it be people we work with, whether it be the community that we're serving, whether it be victims that we're dealing with. The bit when you're talking about the RTC, what I was thinking in my head was, what was the last conversation? Were we there giving them support, saying everything's going to be okay? Or were we ignoring them and concentrating on the car? Because we can't stop that person from passing, but what we can do is just give them that respect by just giving them that comfort for when that passing occurs.
The personal connection.
Exactly. I have used Telstar House in training because there's a lot of learning points from there from a core BA perspective, and there's two parts to this story, and I link them together. And there's a bit of humour to it because that's how you process it. It was the backup building for the London Underground. That's what Telstar House was. It was based in Paddington, and it was 11 stories high, open plan. This was before PAT testing, portable appliance testing. This becomes evident a little bit later. Largest fire loading since the Second World War, this building. This is what they've got calorific value. I think one of the exits were blocked, and there was only the one exit. It was at night.
Where were you in your career at this point?
I just started.
Okay.
If you look at it, it says there that this was my first wear. It's my first wear, right? So I joined Kensington Fire Station, and I'm walking up, and as I'm walking up, the appliances on the outside, this is when it was a 2 appliance station. Walking up, I saw this individual, and I introduced myself. And before I even walked into the fire station, my nickname was Bertie, right?
Bertie.
Bosh, not even walked through the door of the fire station. My name was Bertie. So this individual walked through and he went, all right, everyone, this is Bertie. He's just started. All right, Bertie. All right. Okay. And then I did it.
Why Bertie?
I'm not going into that one because I
Okay.
like sweets. That's all I'm going to say. No. At the time, when we donned our BA sets, we donned them where we just whacked the shoulder straps up tight.
Yeah,
This is a prominent bit because we don't do that now. We talk
Bergen
about
approach
the
to putting the weight on the
fist underneath the shoulder pads. This
yeah.
nationally came out. It was reviewed. Came out after this job.
Yeah.
And again, that's a point. I see my station officer, and he goes, right, 20 pump fires you won't do a lot because there'll be too much going there. You won't have a thatch fire. Just basically a lot of things that you won't have. Within 3 months, I had an 8 pump thatch fire, I had a cylinder job, I had 20 pumpers, and I was hospitalised, right? Okay, and he went, oh, your development book signed off. Thank you very much. So probably it was a week or two into it, and there was a guy there, and I will say his name. I won't say his name, his nickname, which was Spandex, all right? So I said, oh, why do they call you Spandex? And he said, oh, because I was caught in a gold lycra suit doing star jumps in front of the mirror. That's what he told me, right? Now, let me try and give you an image. He got a mullet, blonde hair, and he walked a bit like Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars. Do you know what I mean? It's just sort of that. That's the image I've got of him. And if Spandex is listening, I do apologise. I absolutely love you to bits, right?
Yeah.
So, Bertie, Spandex. We were the BA crew on the back of our pump, all right? So we had 2 pump ladder pump.
How far is he in his career?
Just come off his diamonds.
Wow.
So he just finished being a recruit. We get told now, start up. So we're starting up, and at the time, Spandex has put the cable in, they've done the radio check, and all he's done is stuck his thumb up.
You can hear it.
All right,
Yeah.
you can hear it. No real brief of information at the time. No media, because the media's in the building. So as we've gone in, Paddington have come out, and their brief was, stay low, it's fucking on, right? That's all we got. So we get through to the door, and it's an open plan, and I am like, this is my first wear. Spandex did amazing, but you have to understand, in that situation, he's never been in this job either, and he's only just passed.
Yeah.
He's now realising he can't radio out, and we can hear with a hose, right? So we thought it was an open...
So they left the branch in there?
Yes, yeah, it was in there. So we thought it was an open branch. So Spandex has touched that and realised it's a burst length. So now, take into account, his hands are soaking wet, right? The hose is off the wall into the building somewhere. I've used that hose noise as a reference because it's near the door, all right? So when we talk about references, it's not about a physical reference. We have got other points of reference. I'm on my knees, my head is crouched to my knees, I'm sniffing my own arse going, this is fucking hot, right? So Spandex is moving forward, and you could just hear all these computers going bang, pop, bang, it's banging everywhere. There was not really a lot of visibility of what's going on. At the time, we're on this hose, like, stay low, I'm staying low. Spandex is trying to sort the hose out, he's trying to do the press to talk.
Yeah.
So he goes, Bertie, take over. So I take over, he comes behind me, he's trying to do the radio.
So it's not fully burst length?
No, still
operable.
use it, yeah.
Okay, cool, yeah.
We're using that. Now there's an image on the Telstar House, the pictures, and you see a big flame that come out. We're in there at that time. All right, that's me and spandex are in there when that occurred. Now, we could say it's a wind-driven fire, we can say it's a whatever, you flash over, whatever, right? All I know is it was dark, it went clear, and that fucking thing hit me, and it was hot, right? So I'm literally starfished on the floor, right? So I'm starfished on this floor going, spandex, it's too fucking hot, right? I suddenly hear the evacuation whistle go. So spandex just comes to the floor, and he goes, I don't know where I am. So I said, follow me. So I then go back to where the burst length is, but all the ceiling tiles are gone. So you've got all the cables. So I've put my hand underneath these cables. So we haven't got the anti-tangle straps on the back of the cylinders at that time, or cutters. So I get underneath these cables, go right to where the door is, and I can hear him on the other side of the door, and I turn around and there's no spandex. So he's not there, right? And I remember going, I can fucking get out here. I can get out. The door's there, literally the door's there, and I don't know where spandex is. And it's that choice.
And you've got no comms.
I've got no comms. I'm fucked. I don't know where I'm going. So I clap my hands, because this was a procedure in London.
Still do.
And the reason being is speech diaphragm's not a shout diaphragm. You don't know what they're saying, but that clap travels really far. And then if you hear another clap, it's an acknowledgement.
Upstairs.
Yeah, definitely. No clap. I'll go right. So I'll go back underneath the cables, and I see spandex.
How's your body feel at this point?
At this moment, not really, but they come to that point in a second. And then I go back to spandex, and I get his BA set, and I'm dragging him back.
So he's not moving?
So at the time, yeah, I'm dragging him back. Okay, because what I saw was him healed, like he was sort of slunched over. So I dragged him back, and what you don't realise is all the debris on the floor is catching the cylinder, so now I'm dragging the debris on the floor. Got him on my knees, and I'm just trying to pull him back, and it's dragging and dragging and dragging. It gets hard. I've snapped the back plate. I've actually snapped the two handle straps at the back. By pulling him, I've snapped it. So I'm dragging him on his shoulder straps, and they get caught in the cables. Now, what they don't tell you about cables is how fucking hot they are, right? So we talk about, you get caught in the cables, you can cut them because you're tangled. But cables are metal, aren't they? You know, when it's like 800 degrees at ceiling height, that means the metal's 800 degrees. And if you're caught in that metal, they're melting into your kit and your helmet. So that it was actually melting into the kit, and then the kit was sort of going over it. And that was the point that Man Square came through, and they were trying to find us. So they couldn't find me. Right, and I'm shouting, speech diaphragm, don't work when it shouts. So I set the ADSU off, and I went into entrap procedure. So I just shut down, managed my breathing, and went with spandex. And it's at this point where, on reflection, did I go into entrap procedure because it was a conscious decision? Partly it was. And the other part was, I'm that hot, and I'm that tired, I just want to go to sleep. I was dying. You know, come back on what they said was, if we were there for another 30 seconds to a minute, we'd have died. I'm on the stairs, they give me the Lairdale, the oxygen, right? So breathe in. And then they pull spandex out, and with spandex, they've stripped him naked. And they're putting water on him, and they're trying to, of what I saw, they're trying to resus him. There was a lot of things there that we were doing. And I was suffering with heat, sort of stress, you know. I've killed spandex. Spandex killed himself. I wanted to stand up, I wanted to sit down. I'm like, you know, fuck you, and then fucking rah rah rah, and there was no bit, and I just went up and down, and I was just fucking agitated through the whole thing. So when I see videos of firefighters that have come out and they're sort of having a go at each other, or they're sort of pushing each other, and then people are going, well, this isn't professional. Well, you haven't been in that situation, and that is not a normal behaviour. And so you have to understand why. Not of, you know, it's not right, it doesn't look right, but we're human and we make mistakes. Heat stress, heat exhaustion,
exactly.
So we're going through that, right? They take the Lairdale off me and they give it spandex. So I've got somebody's, they've just put it on and they're just in my face. Still need a piss though, don't I? Right? So I'm still needing this piss. I go, I need a piss. And this guy says, just let it go. So I went, right. So I can let it go. Now, I don't do it often, but what I will say was, I was hotter than my piss. My piss felt cold on my leg, right?
The Firefighters podcast was created to recognize, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests, and as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means that we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, tallies, and also access to all of the incredible documents get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders, then please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month, you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on the platform you're listening, and wherever you are in the world, please support your emergency services responders, and thank you for listening.